You never know who's watching. Sometimes, it's not the crowd you serve, but the one silent soul in the corner who will change your life forever. Stay till the end, you won't believe what this one small act of kindness became. It was a cold, bitter night in the city hospital. The fluorescent lights buzzed above, the clock ticked past 3 a.m., and the air felt heavy with exhaustion. Most of the staff had retired to the break room for a moment's rest, and the corridors echoed with distant beeping and murmured prayers from waiting rooms. But amidst it all, one young nurse stayed behind, Emma. Barely 25, with tired eyes and soft hands trained to comfort, she was finishing her 10th consecutive night shift. Emma had always believed that nursing wasn't just about charts and IVs, it was about presence. About sitting with a dying man when his family couldn't come. About brushing a young girl's hair before surgery so she didn't feel alone. About standing as a human anchor when life tried to pull someone under. And tonight, even after all she'd given, she gave a little more. As she walked past the emergency waiting area, she paused. Slumped in the corner chair, with his coat folded awkwardly under his head, was a man. Mid-40s, salt and pepper beard, sharp cheekbones, expensive leather shoes, and yet something about him seemed broken. He was dressed like someone who didn't belong in this neighborhood, but sleep had conquered him in the most vulnerable posture, arms crossed tightly, as if shielding himself from the world. No one had approached him. No clipboard, no form, just stillness. Cold air from the vent above was blowing straight onto his resting frame, and his shoulders trembled slightly in his sleep. Emma hesitated. She had just one thing left to give, her jacket. Her warm fleece one, the only protection she had brought on this freezing night. She looked down at him and smiled gently. Then, without a word, she knelt beside him and draped her jacket across his chest, carefully tucking the edges near his arms to keep the warmth in. She stood up quietly and turned to leave, never once asking who he was or why he looked so alone. But what Emma didn't know, was that this man wasn't just anyone. He was Cole Bennett, the elusive CEO of Bennett Group Industries, a multi-million-dollar conglomerate known for remaining distant from the public eye. No press. No red carpet, no stories about him in business magazines. He had lost his wife 2 years ago, and since then, he had pulled away from the world, running his empire from behind closed doors. Cole had come to the hospital not for business, but to sit by the side of his only friend, his driver, who had just suffered a stroke. And after hours of pacing and waiting, overwhelmed by grief and guilt, he had fallen asleep, forgotten by the world, until one anonymous hand remembered him with kindness. He stirred shortly after the warmth settled on his chest. Groggy, confused, he blinked open his eyes to see a nurse walking away, her white scrubs catching the light. He reached up and touched the fabric of the jacket. It was soft, feminine, not his. He sat up straighter, pulling it around him, and tried to find her, but she was already gone. The next day, Cole didn't leave. He waited. He returned to that same seat and watched as shift after shift passed by. He didn't ask for her name. He just watched, trying to spot the same gentle spirit again. And then, 2 nights later, there she was. Emma walked briskly down the hallway with a tray of medicines, her ponytail swaying, her steps light. And though the hospital was always buzzing, in that moment, time slowed for Cole. He stood, jacket in hand, unsure of what to say. "Excuse me," he called softly. She turned, surprised. I think it's yours." He held out the jacket. Emma blinked. Recognition came slowly. "Oh, I didn't think you'd notice." "I noticed," Cole said, his voice thick with something deeper than gratitude. "No one has done something like that for me in a long time." Emma smiled politely. It was cold, that's all. But Cole shook his head. "It wasn't just the cold. You covered a stranger, someone you didn't even know." She looked away, slightly embarrassed. "That's what we're supposed to do, right? Help where we can." Cole studied her for a long moment. "Do you always do that? Just quietly save people and walk away?" Emma chuckled. "I try, but I don't think anyone calls it saving." He handed her a small card. "Please, if you ever need anything, call this number." Emma looked down. It wasn't just any card. It was heavy, embossed with gold lettering, and said Cole Bennett, CEO. Her heart skipped. She'd seen that name before. In newspapers, in hospital donations. But standing before her now, he looked nothing like a CEO, he looked like someone who had just begun to feel again. "I can't accept this," she said quietly. "I didn't do it for anything. And that," Cole said, "is exactly why I want to help you." He turned and walked away, leaving her stunned in the hallway. But what Emma didn't know yet was that her life was about to change forever. That simple act of compassion had reached a man who had built walls so high, no one dared knock, until she covered him, not with words, but warmth. And while she went back to her rounds, shaking off the encounter, Cole went home that night thinking about her. About the quiet strength in her hands. About the heart in her actions. And something in him stirred again. He didn't know it yet either, but he wasn't just going to repay her kindness. He was going to rebuild her world. End of chapter 1. If you loved Emma's courage and Cole's awakening, wait till you see what happens next. In chapter 2, a single interview, a flood, and a secret from Emma's past will collide in a moment that will define both their futures. Speech Balloon, let us know in the comments if you've ever had a stranger's kindness change your life. Heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this story with someone who believes in silent heroes. 2 weeks had passed since Emma had covered Cole with her jacket. She hadn't called the number he gave her. She didn't want to disturb the life of a man so out of reach, so clearly from a world she didn't belong to. After all, she was just a nurse, young, broke, and always behind on rent. But her heart was full of compassion, and that night she had followed her heart like always. Yet Emma couldn't stop thinking about him, not because of his wealth, but because of the pain in his eyes. The way he looked at her, as though kindness had been absent from his world for far too long. She'd seen wealthy men before, the kind who flaunted their status, but Cole had been quiet, alone, tired. And that image stayed with her. Meanwhile, in a glass-walled office overlooking the city skyline, Cole Bennett sat at the head of a long table surrounded by his executives. The meeting was about expansion, about stocks, about billion-dollar deals, but Cole wasn't listening. He was staring at the same hospital security footage he'd saved. The one that showed a young nurse placing a jacket over him, unaware that she was being recorded. He paused the clip at the moment her hand gently adjusted the collar near his shoulder. He replayed it again and again, as though trying to understand how a complete stranger could care that deeply without asking for anything in return. That day, Cole left the boardroom and told his assistant to cancel all appointments. Then he did something he hadn't done in years, he visited the small nurses' dormitory next to the hospital under the pretense of donating funds for renovation. Emma had no idea he was coming. She had just returned from a shift and was in the small common area sipping cold tea when a security guard walked in and said, "There's someone outside asking for you." Says it's personal. Confused, Emma stepped outside, only to freeze in shock. Cole stood beside a sleek black car, holding a white envelope. His smile was soft, hesitant. "I didn't mean to startle you," he said gently. "I just wanted to say thank you properly." Again, Emma looked around nervously. "You really didn't have to." "I know," Cole said, stepping closer, "but I want to." He handed her the envelope. "There's something inside that might help you. I looked into your situation. I know you work 2 jobs. I know your mother's in a care home. I just wanted to lighten the load. That's all." Emma felt her breath catch. She opened the envelope slowly and gasped. Inside was a check. $50,000. Her knees buckled, and Cole quickly caught her arm. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do this?" "Because someone once saved me," Cole said, voice thick with emotion. "And I didn't thank them in time. You reminded me what grace looks like." Emma tried to hand it back, tears brimming. I can't take this. You don't even know me." But Cole smiled. "I'd like to, if you'll let me." That was the beginning. Over the next few weeks, they met more often, at first by accident, then by intention. Coffee at the hospital cafeteria, short walks during her breaks. Emma never pretended to be anyone else. She was real, honest, the kind of person who would choose people over profit, every time. And that's exactly why Cole found himself drawn to her. No one in his world spoke with such sincerity. No one listened the way she did. Meanwhile, Emma found herself opening up too. She told him about her father leaving when she was 12. About working 3 jobs in college. About how she used to dance before bills and illness stole her dreams. Cole listened, and each time she spoke, he looked at her like she was the most extraordinary person in the world. But one rainy evening changed everything. A sudden flood hit the lower end of the city. The hospital was overwhelmed. Emergency alerts blared as patients poured in. Emma worked non-stop for 36 hours, bandaging wounds, holding frightened hands, giving CPR to drowning victims. Her body screamed for rest, but she kept going. Cole came to the hospital that night, not as a CEO, but as a volunteer. He helped unload medical supplies, carried stretchers, and stood side by side with Emma, witnessing her strength. She was soaked, hair plastered to her face, hands trembling, but she never stopped. At one point, she nearly collapsed against a wall. Cole caught her again. "You can't keep doing this, Emma. You're hurting yourself." "They need me," she gasped. "I'll rest later." And he realized, this was love. Not romantic, not yet. But the kind of love that gives without asking. That covers a stranger with a jacket at 3 a.m. That chooses exhaustion over comfort if someone else needs help. He walked away quietly, made one call, and by morning, had donated $10 million in emergency relief under Emma's name. She was stunned when she heard the news. Her coworkers thought she was connected to some powerful donor. But Emma knew the truth, and she cried alone in the break room when she saw the press headline, "Hospital Saved by Unknown Nurse's Courage." Later that week, Cole picked her up from her shift. "Why did you put my name?" she asked through tears. "Because the world deserves to know what a real hero looks like," Cole said. "And I want you to see yourself the way I see you." That night, under the soft glow of the city lights, he finally asked, "Emma, can I take you somewhere? Not a fancy place, just where we can be us." She hesitated, then nodded. That evening turned into dinner. Dinner turned into walks. Walks into long talks. Months passed. Love bloomed quietly, beautifully. And one evening, as Emma stood outside the care home visiting her mother, Cole knelt in the rain with the same jacket she had once placed on him, and proposed. "You covered me when the world forgot me," he said. "Now let me cover you for life." Emma dropped to her knees, sobbing, and whispered yes. The hospital clapped when they heard the news. The staff threw a small celebration. Emma stayed at the hospital part-time even after marrying Cole, because healing was her calling. And Cole, he learned to love again, not because someone chased his wealth, but because someone saw his soul in the shadows and wrapped it with kindness. Glowing star, the end. Glowing star. If you believe one small act of kindness can change a life, hit that heart-like button. Speech balloon. Share your favorite moment in the comments below. Bell. Subscribe now to hear more stories of love, humanity, and miracles where you least expect them. Because sometimes, the quietest gestures echo the loudest in someone's heart.